Yo, what's up guys, it's your boy Sami here. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto had the divine powers? Part 2, hope you'll enjoy this video. So before we start, please subscribe to our channel, and like this video. So let's get into the video. Konoha. 5 years after the Kyuubi incident. Namika's estate. Mom, Dad, did you see that? Natsu cried out of excitement, as he released his chakra. Take that, Narumi. I'm now one step closer to beating you to the title of next Hokage. Laugh all you want, but in the end, you wouldn't even be able to match me, cause I unlocked mine earlier, so I've got a head start. Narumi smirked at him, making Natsu angry and irritated, before their parents had intervened. Now, don't start fighting, children. You should be very proud of yourselves, since nobody gets to unlock their chakra so fast, and with so little trouble. Minato said with a proud smile on his face, with Kushina matching his joy. Just 10 days into the training, and you've already tapped into your chakra. I swear, by the time you become Genins, you two will be unstoppable if you continue on like this. Of course they'll be unstoppable, when they have two of Konoha's best shinobi, and two Sanins helping them out, Minato. Kushina said with a big smile. Oh, you are making me so proud of you. To think that you've managed to unlock your chakra so fast. Not even Mikoto's genius son couldn't do it until he was 6, and I've got two of you beating him for a year. You must be prodigies, Natsu, Narumi. Kushina grabbed both of her kids, and hugged them tightly, with Minato joining in. This was the scene of a happy celebration of children's success that was observed by one child that seemed left out in the family. That child, Naruto Namikaze Uzumaki, currently observed everything that transpired through the window on the second floor of his estate, his golden eyes looking at what was going on in the garden with a barely hidden hurt, covered by the bangs of red like blood hair, with streaks of white in them. He stood out from his brother and sister, with Natsu having blue eyes and red hair, while Narumi had blonde hair and violet eyes. And it wasn't just because of his looks, but also because of the attitude he had, which was vastly different from his siblings. Where Natsu and Narumi were seemingly obsessed and overly excited with everything that revolved around being a shinobi, Naruto seemed to take it with far less excitement and enthusiasm. While he was somewhat interested in being a shinobi, if only to gain some manner of attention from his parents, he didn't see being a shinobi as everything there was to life and the world. If anything, Naruto felt it to be somewhat restraining to him, and not fully for him. Along with that, Naruto was different in how he preferred to spend his time, as he liked to read books on all sorts of stuff, like legends, folklore, myths, but also more complex stuff, like maths, science, and so on. Where he was far more comfortable with spending time with a book, his siblings hung out with their friends, of which they had a dime, and a dozen, if not several dozens. And since Naruto didn't talk much to other people, he didn't have friends among the villagers, and given some other factors, it was no wonder that he was seen as a strange child. Such, as when their parents had asked on their 5th birthday whom they wanted to be, Natsu and Narumi instantly said that they wanted to be shinobi and future Hokage, with Minato, Kushina, and everyone else praising them and smiling. With Naruto thinking that his siblings simply gave expected answers. But when he was asked, Naruto didn't answer with shinobi. Instead, his answer was that he didn't know who he wanted to be, but he did say that he would like to help those in need of it. His parents and everyone else at the party interpreted as being a hero and shinobi of Konoha and its people, with everyone saying that it was a nice dream, but it was then that Naruto said that he didn't mean Konoha. He wanted to help people just because they were people, even if they were from other villages, whether he was or wasn't a shinobi. When his mother asked why he wanted to help everyone, and not just Konoha, Naruto answered that it would be wrong to ignore everyone else. His siblings laughed at him, calling him a fool, and saying that the only way he could be a hero was if he were to be shinobi of Konoha, with other children quickly picking up on him by calling him a fool. Grown-ups, along with his parents, decided to dismiss this drivel as a child's dream and nothing more, focusing back on his siblings. Most had probably even forgotten about it already, but Naruto didn't, as he was actually serious with what he said, or at least, as serious as a child of his age could be. It did hurt that he was dismissed by everyone for his words, and that other children called him a fool, but Naruto decided not to give it much of a thought. Just because he was called a fool didn't make him one in his own opinion, and even when village in its majority soon started to refer to Naruto as Namikaze's fool, he simply didn't bother with it. People have always been giving him weird looks, and dismissed him in favor of his siblings, who were nearly worshipped as heroes of Konoha, for holding in them the 9-tailed fox. Natsu and Narumi were used to such attention and reverence, being fed it since they were born, and it showed in their attitudes. Personally, Naruto thought it was strange that people praised his brother and sister for seemingly doing nothing. They didn't fight the Kyuubi, or do the sealing, or even serve as seals themselves. They are simply vessels for its power, not the ones who hold those vessels closed for fox, and they are not the ones who seal the fox, so why worship them? This just puzzled Naruto, as to why people revered his siblings so much. If anyone was worth the respect, then it would be those that had given their lives for the village, and in saving people from the fox. But people seemingly forgot about these heroes, or didn't want to mention them. And, as for Naruto personally, then the opinion of people was completely different, as he seemed to be an odd boy to them all, including his parents, which wasn't helped by the fact of Naruto possessing eyes with the golden color, something that his mother and father had stated should have been impossible, since they had different colors of eyes. He was their son, there was no doubt about it, as Naruto had facial characteristics of his mother and father mixed into him, but the eyes were something completely foreign. And that wasn't the end of it yet. From what Naruto understood, he wasn't supposed to have survived when he was just born, and yet, he was healed from whatever that was killing him, and it was also the very day that he also gained his eyes. This quickly created plenty of rumors, ranging from Naruto being a completely different child that his parents took in to stop feeling hurt, to Naruto actually being possessed by the fox's soul, with his eyes being the same as Kyuubi's. His parents didn't actually believe any of it, but because they never really addressed all the rumors and speculations, they never stopped or died out. This served a foul service to Naruto, creating him a rather bad reputation around the village, with dozens of stories being mixed into it about him being a cursed child, possessed by a fox, or not even a real Namekiz. Of course, nobody had even dared to mention those rumors to Minato or Kushina, fearing for their lives and health, as they all knew about Kushina's explosive temper and preference to violence over talking. Because of this, people always gave Naruto cold glares or preferred to ignore him outright, especially when his siblings were around, but generally, people didn't do anything bad to him or harmed him in any way. So when the rumors spread of Naruto being a fool, people took to this like fish takes to water, and he quickly earned himself a new nickname, Fool of Konoha. Another curious thing that Naruto also had going for him was the fact that he could always understand and tell what people really felt when they spoke to him or were near him. It was like he could read their minds and tell when they were telling a lie or being truthful. He could also understand and sense what people felt towards him, which was something, as Naruto found out some time ago, was something that only he could do. For example, he could tell exactly how people felt towards him when he was around him, and most times it was either indifferent, some kind of disappointment, or just plain hatred or malice for some reason. Same went for his parents and siblings, and he could tell what people felt about others, if he wanted. This was one of the reasons why he never felt as close with his siblings and parents as they were with each other. He could sense that his parents loved him, or at least cared for him, but when compared to his siblings, their love and adoration of them was far stronger. It was like comparing a local normal house to a clan's estate with its grounds. Naruto also sensed disappointment from his parents every time they looked at him, as if he wasn't as good as they had wanted him to be. He knew he was different from them and his siblings, but just because of that, why should they feel like he is failing them? While Naruto had long learned to keep his calm and not dwell on bad things, that was one of the few things that kept distressing him. Naruto didn't understand why people were so cold towards him and why they thought that he wasn't his parents' kid. True, his eyes were different, but he did read in a book that it could have been because he took after his grandparents. It was possible, so why didn't people think about it? Why think the worst possible thing to be the right one? Honestly, the people of Konoha and Shinobi vexed Naruto with their ignorant attitude. His parents also surprised Naruto in a few ways, such as being completely ignorant towards rumors spreading around about their son, or in the fact that they gave far more attention towards his siblings instead of him, and his little sister Mito, with whom he was currently sitting in the room. Mito was born nearly 3 years ago in September, making her 2 years old, with looks that nearly matched those of Naruto, as she sported bright crimson hair, and even resembled Naruto facially, while her eyes were a violet color, same as Kushina. Out of all his siblings, Naruto could honestly say that he was closest with his little sister, as, when there wasn't anyone staying with her, she was always in Naruto's company. He enjoyed his little sister's company, and she always was able to make him stop thinking about things and just smile, with Naruto always making his little sister smile and laugh whenever he could. Like with others, Naruto was capable of sensing the emotions of his little sister, and sensing and seeing her joy was more than enough to lift his spirits and forget about all the bad stuff. Natsu and Narumi didn't seem to have the same effect on Mito, as their antics and hyperbolic personalities seemed to scare Mito, making her cry, and when this happened, Naruto was almost always able to make her stop and smile again. Because of that, along with their many friends and admirers, they didn't like to spend much time with her, and thought it to be boring and a bother. Good thing that his parents didn't think like they did, and paid Mito enough attention, but ever since they've started training his siblings, they've become somewhat distant from Mito, with his mother even deciding to employ a babysitter for Mito when she was training Natsu and Narumi. For some reason that Naruto didn't yet understand, the fact that his mother would pay someone to look after Mito instead of doing it herself, made the youngest of triplets feel angry at his mother. And it was amplified even further when he discovered that the woman in question wasn't even all that interested in looking after Mito, as she was putting on a show of doing it, so as to earn herself appreciation of Minato and Kushina. Naruto's musings about things and his observation of his family were interrupted when he sensed how small palm of his sister touched his leg. He instantly turned away from the window and looked down at Mito, flashing her a wide smile, with Mito answering with giggles and the same. Picking her up with some difficulty, Naruto sat with her on the bed and spoke up. So Mito, what story would you like to hear today? A tale of gallant ninja, or how about a tale of Fox Princess Shizuka and Big Bad Oni Takamaru? Naruto asked her, as this was their favorite pastime. Foxy. Foxy. Mito enthusiastically said, with Naruto smiling and beginning his tale. Alright, the public made its decision. Naruto said, as he sat more comfortably. Once upon a time, in the mountains far, far away stood a very big and very pretty palace. Bigger than our home? Mito asked, with Naruto nodding to her. Yes, it was as big as Hokage Mountain, and in there lived a very beautiful Princess Shizuka. People from all over the world, lords, samurai, shinobi, and merchants, would seek her out and ask for her hand in marriage, but she would turn everyone away. Naruto continued. But why? Shizuka didn't want to become someone's wife just yet, and because they didn't see the real her, and only saw what they wanted to see. Naruto said in a somewhat riddled fashion. Because she wasn't just a princess, but she was also a kitsune, and a kami that people of local towns and villages prayed to. While she was in her palace, and people prayed to her, she would provide people with good harvests, and protect them and their crops from rains. So she was like Papa. Mito said with giggles. Did she also have shinobi helping her? No, not shinobi, but kitsune just like her, only younger and not as powerful. You see, Mito, Shizuka was a tenko, a kitsune that lived over 1,000 years, and grew all 9 tails. With all 9 tails, a kitsune could become a tenko, a very, very important kitsune, and a local kami. Naruto explained to her. Like Hokage, she would protect and look after people, but also make sure that they had all they required, as long as people respected her, and didn't try to hurt nature or hunt foxes. Why would people hurt foxes? Mito asked in a saddened voice. Everyone has their own reason, Mito, but you shouldn't hurt foxes if they do not do harm to you. Foxes are servants of goddess Inari, a very important goddess that people pray to for harvests, money, and so on. If you respect nature, and sometimes feed foxes that come near your farmer house, then Inari will bless you, but if you hurt it, then Inari will send her kitsune after you, and all those that hurt her foxes. And when that happened, those evildoers would start to have all kinds of bad things happen to them, from tripping on flat ground to having all of their food being eaten by kitsune, and worse. Naruto continued. Now, Shizuka herself was. It was at that point when the door into his room opened up, and in stepped the babysitter that his mother had hired, one Mibuki Haruno. There you are, little rascal. Why did you take her out of her crib, you fool of a child? Mibuki practically screeched at Naruto, who flinched at how she spoke, and kept himself from scowling at the woman, reading her like a book. Mito was lonely, and I decided Naruto spoke up, but wasn't allowed to continue, as Mibuki stormed towards him, and Mito. She pushed him aside, and grabbed Mito, before stepping out of the room, with Mito protesting. I don't want to see you passing on whatever foolishness you have onto Mito, you hear me? If I see her with you again the next time I'm here, I'll report to your parents, and they'll deal with you. Do you understand me, fool? She threatened Naruto, with him nodding to her. Good, now make yourself useful, and don't show yourself around me, and Mito. With that, she stepped out of the room, banging the door loudly on her way back, leaving Naruto alone in his room. Or so it would seem for most, but not to Naruto, because for as long as he could remember, he was always able to see things that normal people couldn't. Like, for instance, Naruto turned to his right, his gaze looking at the 2 other beings that were in his room. Closest to him sat a fox with dark brown fur and red eyes, with red markings on her body, and 5 fluffy long tails waving behind her. She emitted an unnatural fiery glow from herself, with only Naruto being able to see it. He could clearly see how she was angry, and he couldn't blame her, since he too didn't like Mibuki one bit. She seemed to care only about herself, and didn't care much about Mito, at least not as much as Naruto would have wanted. The second occupant also looked like a fox, but unlike the first one, she had only 1 tail, which was longer than her body. She also had white fur, with the tip of her long tail being colored red. Her eyes were yellow, and she had 4 horns on her head, pointed backwards. She emitted a green glow from her body, and seemed floating in the air, also showing with her violently swinging tail, that she was displeased with Mibuki. These were what Naruto had been the subject that Naruto was telling about to Mito. They were kitsune, with the 6-tailed one being called Akagi, while the white-horned kitsune called herself Izuna. And Naruto was the only one who could see, touch, and talk to them, with everyone around him, and in the village not capable of even perceiving them or other creatures like them, which were called yokai. These yokai are capable of existing outside of human perception, with nobody, not even censors, Hyuga or Uchiha, being able to see or even sense their presence. And it was much to the benefit of the yokai, since there were a great many of them living in Konoha and its local areas, varying from small forest spirits Kadama, and ending with kitsune. Naruto literally saw all kinds of yokai when he was out on the streets, creatures passing by humans that would make anyone stop and run for the hills, yet none could see them, save for Naruto. This, along with his empathy thing, was also one of the strange things that Naruto could do, and a few years back, he had tried to tell his parents all about it, but they dismissed it all as a child's fantasies. He tried to prove them wrong, but all it did was earn him laughs from his parents, mocking from his siblings, and later on a worsened reputation among the villagers. Now that Naruto thought about it, he could potentially understand why people were so distrustful and cold towards him, as well as prone to see him as a fool or an odd child. Didn't mean that it wasn't hurtful, but still. Back to the kitsune in front of Naruto. Due to his abilities, Naruto was always aware of someone watching over him, since he was the same age as Mito. Sometimes he would even see Akagi and some other kitsune watching over him from the window or right outside his crib, looking after him when he was left alone. Most, or rather always, it was Akagi that was near him, and she was the first one of the kitsune, and yokai in general, to speak to him. She taught him all he now knew about yokai, kitsune, and the world, as it was in reality, and all other things. She told him that she and other kitsune were instructed to watch over him by a Tenko that resided in this village. When Naruto had asked who Tenko was, Akagi didn't answer, but she did tell him that they will meet when the time is right. Naruto trusted Akagi and other kitsune because he could clearly see and sense that they didn't wish him any harm and genuinely were concerned about him. Akagi in particular was very protective towards Naruto, claiming that to her, he was the most important person in the world, with Naruto sensing devotion, care, love, and something that he couldn't quite yet figure out. Naruto just accepted this all as a fact, and with that, he had gained himself his first real friend. Izuna was one of the kitsune that was tasked with looking after him, but she seemed to have long taken a liking to Mito, which didn't bother Naruto all that much. If anything, he was relieved that his sister had someone looking after her when he wasn't around. Letting out a sigh, Naruto stood up from his seat and fixed his appearance a bit. Wretched woman. What right does she have to shove you like this? Naruto, darling, just say the word, and I'll make her beg for you to forgive her. Akagi offered him with a very menacing giggle followed afterwards. I wish, but then she would probably say that it was me who had done it to her, and I think my parents would believe her, or at least my mom would. She still thinks that Mibuki is her best friend, alongside Mikoto. Naruto sighed again, before turning to Izuna. Izuna, could you look out for Mito? I doubt I'll be able to see her again before dinner. I'll not let her out of my sight. With that said, Izuna flew away from the room, passing right through the door, as if she were a ghost. Then what is your plan for today? Perhaps we could go to the library, and finish up that book you've started. Akagi suggested, tilting her head to her left a little bit. Maybe, but I don't feel like reading anymore. Let's just go for a stroll. Maybe some fresh air will help me up. Naruto said, and went out of his room, with Akagi following closely. Sneaking out of the room and house was easy, as Mibuki wasn't really paying attention to him, and strangely enough, muttering something about being denied what was rightfully her, and so on. Whatever she was on about, Naruto didn't care about it, and simply left the house with Akagi, but not before waving his sister, and cheering her up with a funny face. Once outside, Naruto began to walk down the streets, with Akagi deciding to cast a spell over Naruto, which would make him seemingly invisible towards others. As Naruto had learned, yokai aren't just for show, and they do have their own tricks up their sleeves, which they can utilize. This was what people would call magic, but for them it was just as natural as any other jutsu. And this simple spell was one of the easier ones to learn, according to Akagi, but very effective, as not even sensors would be able to detect you while you are under that cloak, allowing you to move and speak freely. You do have to be careful not to bump or touch anyone outside the cloak, or they'll immediately see you. Akagi knew that Naruto, while he didn't show it, felt upset and bad when people projected their bad emotions on him, so she took to the habit of casting this cloak over him when they were out on the walk together. This was just one of many ways in which Akagi took care of Naruto, as she had done for almost all of his life that she guarded him. Another way was through being a confidant of his, and letting him spill out his feelings, just as she felt he needed to do right now. Naruto, are you alright? Akagi spoke to him, as they moved along the street, avoiding passing by people, and yokai. I've noticed that you've been brooding a bit more than usual. Well, I do not mind observing you do that out of aesthetic pleasure, it does make me worry about you. Is this about your parents starting to train Natsu and Narumi? Not really, at least not completely about training them, Naruto said in an unsure tone. It's just I just don't get it really. You do not understand the reason for them training your brother and sister so early, and not doing the same with you. Akagi asked him, with Naruto nodding to her. I may not know your parents all too well, but from what I've observed over years, I've come to understand that your parents are biased towards you and your siblings, though in different ways. Care to elaborate on that? Naruto asked her. Your mother and father have always been like this, maybe because of your siblings containing the nine-tailed monster inside of them, or maybe because the two are so apparent in their personalities, I can't say with full certainty. Akagi spoke up, but what I can say is that Kushina and Minato have much higher hopes for them than they do for you, and that no small part of their bias comes from the influence of your godparents and other important people. Naruto cocked up his eyebrow at the mention of the two Sanins, before returning it to normal, as the mention of the two didn't leave a good taste in his mouth. Tsunade and Jiraiya were often guests in their house, with the latter being there almost every other day when he was in the village, and not doing whatever he did. And whenever they were in the house, the two would always focus their attention on Natsu and Narumi, with Tsunade boasting how she will train Narumi to be her next successor, while Jiraiya was prattling on about how Natsu will be the next great sage after him. All the while, whenever Naruto had tried to get their attention, he would get far different reactions from them. Jiraiya would always try to wave him off, with Naruto sensing that the man wasn't just interested in Naruto, but felt that even talking to him was a waste of time. Naruto also sensed no small amount of disappointment from Jiraiya for seemingly no reason whatsoever, which when combined with earlier felt emotions, had left Naruto with a negative impression of Jiraiya. As for Tsunade, she seemed weird to Naruto, because whenever he approached her, he would see her lash out verbally at him, saying that she didn't want anything to do with him, but while he did sense anger from her, he also sensed regret, sadness, and a feeling of loss. It was as if Naruto's presence was far too painful for Tsunade to endure. This was something that Naruto couldn't fully comprehend, so he didn't have a fully formed opinion about Tsunade just yet. However, just because of how obnoxious and temperamental she was at times, Naruto could see that she wasn't the type that would get along with him well. And Naruto could totally see the Sanins and other people influencing his parents, because he already knew and understood that they were a little gullible in their trust in others. Just look at Mibuki being placed in charge of taking care of Mito, and that's just one thing. His parents constantly heard praises from others about his brother and sister for no apparent reason, and they took it all without a second thought. And then there are the Sanins. They clearly favored his siblings, and that wasn't even all that hard to notice, but his parents, they just didn't seem to notice it at all. His father and mother felt some kind of special reverence towards the Sanins, especially towards Jiraiya, since Naruto himself was named after one of the fictional characters that the man wrote. Just out of interest, Naruto read the story himself when he found it in the library, and to be quite honest, that book had left something of a two-sided impression. On one hand, he did like the main character and his resolve, but overall, the antagonists and the setting, it all seemed to work almost always in the favor of the hero, and everything was too white and black. Maybe Naruto's dislike stemmed from the fact of his preference towards other genres of literature or something else, but overall, he didn't like the book, and he didn't see why his parents would name him like that. Perhaps they were under a more profound impression from the book and character. Who knows? Yeah, I can see them being influenced by them, but still, why are Natsu and Narumi getting so much spotlight? Naruto asked Akagi. Because most humans aren't as perceptive as they like to state they are. Akagi replied to Naruto with a knowing tone. Do you know how a cat gets a person's attention? It meows and makes noises. Naruto answered. Are you implying that because Natsu and Narumi are so active and outgoing that they get all the attention from everyone? That would be part of the reason, but not the entire one, no. Akagi said to Naruto. Humans have a certain tendency to be blind towards those that they revere and worship, not fully realizing the whole picture. Let's take for instance your father, Minato Namikaze, the so-called Yellow Flash, and a man that had single-handedly ended the war with the Wagakure, as the humans say. Now what was the most deciding battle in the conflict, Naruto? The Battle of Northern Ridge, where a third of Iwa's invasion force was wiped out by him. Naruto answered. Yes, that is correct, but would like to know how Minato managed to gain victory for Konoha on that day. Akagi asked, with Naruto nodding to her. Well then, the history books may have stated that the battle was won thanks to your father's intervention, but in reality it wasn't all that cut and dry. The Wagakure had been forced into a prolonged engagement before that battle officially took place, when they tried to pass that ridge, since it was defended by members of Clan Ai, once a numerous and respected clan of this village, but now reduced to just 2 members. Do you know how they've met their end? They stopped the advance of Iwa's forces and held them back, despite being outnumbered. Naruto asked. Correct, and even I, a kitsune with no particular love for humans, have to give credit where it is due. Those men and women, some 200 shinobi clad in bright red armor, held the line for 4 days straight against an army of over 2,500 shinobi. Outnumbered, with no lines of communication whatsoever, and no retreat, they've managed to inflict such casualties, that 3rd Tsuchikage was forced to send reinforcements to keep the offensive going, and by the end of the 4th day, he himself came to the battlefield. Where only 11 Ai warriors remained. Akagi continued. Battered, injured, exhausted, and weakened to the point where it should have been impossible for them to continue fighting, yet they still stood their ground. Tsuchikage personally vaporized them with his jutsu, but he then also ordered all the bodies and armor of the clan. The bodies were buried in a mass grave not far from Ridge, while armor was sent back to village. Only a few days later, when Konoha's reinforcing battalion had reached the ridge, they were met with over 1,000 of Iwa shinobi, who were also battered, tired, and ill-equipped for further offense, yet the unprepared Konoha shinobi were overwhelmed, and then came your father. So the foundation of that victory, and end of the conflict with Iwa, was brought thanks to the sacrifice of Clan Ai, but nobody seems to talk about them. What became of them after the war? Naruto asked. The clan had lost the majority of its members, and when Kurama got out of your mother, it killed practically all the rest of Ai clansmen, when one of his tails had crushed their estate, where non-combatants were, while warriors were killed in action. The Kage told Naruto. Only one member of the clan survived, a young woman by the name of Natora, and only because she was on the border duty. When she returned, she found out the fate of her clan, and how she was left with nothing. After this, she quit being a shinobi, and adopted a son, called Namasa, whom she now raises. So what you are implying is that the truth of the matter may be deeper, and not so obvious to the eye, right? Naruto asked, with the Kage giggling a little. And this is exactly why I adore you, Naruto. You are able to see better, unlike the humans who can't often see past their noses, but you just like to take your time, and examine something thoroughly. Ah, when you grow up, I would so very much like to be an object of your examination. The Kage suggestively stated, forgetting about the fact that she spoke with a 5-year-old child. You're like an open book, Akagi, though it is good, and I'm glad to know you. You don't hold anything back, and say what you feel, and what you think about, which is better than what most others do. Naruto replied to her. Still, it doesn't exactly answer the question I had in mind. My dear Naruto, to fully answer the question you've imposed upon yourself about your siblings, you would need to learn to read the minds of others, if you want the clearest picture possible. All I can say is that you shouldn't always try and comprehend the reasons behind everyone's actions and thoughts. The Kage told Naruto, who seemed to be in a somewhat thinking process. I know that you may be wondering if you were to become more like your siblings, then would your parents pay more attention to you, and all I have to say to this is that you would be making a real fool out of yourself. Despite what humans may say about you, Naruto, you are far from the fool they claim you to be. You are idealistic, true, a little naive, certainly, but you are also someone who thinks about things, and does not accept them at face value. You don't just follow the crowd's instinct, you stand out, and that is good. You are unique, and that is what is important. Thanks Akagi. Naruto said with a small smile, before releasing his smile. At least you and other kitsune seem to acknowledge me for who I am, and not judge upon it or something, unlike my parents. Well, if they don't care about their son when he doesn't meet their expectations, then how about you think of it in this way? Why should you care about them when they don't meet your expectations? Akagi suggested, with Naruto turning his head to the fox. They don't seem to care about you or your interests, so why should you strive to impress them? They're my parents, Akagi, my mother, and father. Isn't it natural for children to want their parents to be proud of them? Naruto asked her. Besides, if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be born in this world. That may be so, but I mean that while it may seem important, why don't you think about why it is so important? Akagi suggested to Naruto, before letting out an audible sigh. Naruto, family isn't just blood relations and membership in some clan. Take it after someone who lived for over 50 decades. Family are people that care for you, and who accept you for not what you are trying to be for them, but simply because of who you are, with all your flaws and peculiarities. To try and change for someone else's sake isn't a worthwhile goal, believe me. I accept you, and to me, you are already a family. Humans may have a different understanding of family, but to me, this is how it is. Then I'm glad to be a part of your family, Akagi, thank you. Naruto seemed more cheered up now. I'll think about what you said, Naruto said, before the two had stopped, finding themselves in front of a certain forested area on the outskirts of Konoha. The Forest of Death was located quite some ways away from the village proper, and was surrounded by fences and closed gates, as well as warning signs, so as to keep civilians and most shinobi out of that area. It was designated as one of the most dangerous places not just in Konoha, but in all of the Land of Fire, because of the dangerous and strange wildlife, man-eating plants, and all other things that made that forest so dangerous. That's not to mention the fact that despite encompassing only 10 kilometers in radius, it was not uncommon for people to get lost in the forest and not be seen again. Trees, plantation, and so forth were bigger and stronger than normal counterparts, and because of that no untrained shinobi or genin would go there without a purpose. This have also made this forest into an ideal place to sort out the majority of genins that took the Chunin exams in Konoha. It was quite easy to stumble upon the remains of some unlucky shinobi in the forest, at least those that weren't eaten by the forest dwellers. But that wasn't what had stopped Naruto, it was what he saw coming from the very forest itself, and the feeling he was getting from it. He sensed an intense, near-overwhelming anger, mixed in with hatred and indignation. It was almost as if the forest itself was alive, and was a yokai of sorts, one that wanted to get out and be free, but for some reason couldn't, and that made the forest mad. Naruto also felt extreme hatred towards humans, one that seemed so strong that it practically permeated its entirety. Along with that, Naruto could have sworn that he could hear screams of humans coming from the forest itself, cries for help and of anguish, making him shake a little bit. The Kage sensed that something was wrong, and when she realized what it was, she instantly cast it over the two of them, a calming aura, which returned Naruto to his normal self. As he regained his breath, he turned towards the Kage and spoke up. "The Kage, what is wrong with this force? It's like it is alive, and is so full of hatred and malice," and those people. Naruto was still in somewhat of a shock, but was overcoming it. "That forest is a manifestation of a kami that used to rule these lands, long before one you call Hashirama Senju had found his village here," the Kage stated to Naruto, who turned with a questioning look to her. "Remember what I told you about the difference between a kami and a yokai, Naruto? That a kami is a yokai that isn't worshipped as one, and that yokai that is a kami that isn't worshipped as a yokai," Naruto answered, before turning back towards the forest. "So the forest of death is literally a giant yokai, or rather kami. More like a manifestation of that kami's power, like we kitsune manifest our power in through tales or fires, but you are not too far off the base," the Kage explained to Naruto. Long before shinobi had arrived here to settle, this land belonged to a particularly powerful kami, Mariko no Kami. While most of us yokai do possess a certain affinity for a specific element, Mariko no Kami manifested herself, as with powers to command the nature and elements that were inherent to it, such as water and earth, as well as some others that combined one and two, like wood. This kami was worshipped by the people that resided here before war came to these lands between Senju and Uchiha. In exchange for worship and respect, Mariko no Kami gifted them with the most fertile lands in all of the country, a strong and plentiful harvest, and more. However, when shinobi did come into this area, they've driven all those that worshipped her from here, even desecrating her shrines with blood in the process. That must have made her extremely mad," Naruto commented. "That is what we kitsune call an understatement." Natsumi was furious at the humans that had dared to defile her lands with their wars, and in return she made life for them here not easy. "You think Forest of Death is bad enough? Try to imagine such a place encompassing all the area and territories where Konoha now stands," the Kage told him, with Naruto shuddering at the thought. Eventually, however, when the Hidden Leaf was about to be established for good, Hashirama Senju, along with Madara Uchiha and Mito Uzumaki, had approached Mariko no Kami and asked for her permission to build their village. I do not know all of the details, but I do know that it was Mito Uzumaki that had managed to convince Natsumi to let shinobi establish their village on her lands. In exchange, she was promised that no more blood will be spilled in her lands, and that her shrines shall be cleared of desecrations by holy waters from 3 different mountains. For a time, the peace between men and kami lasted, but it was, unfortunately, broken by humans. "What happened?" Naruto asked. "What happened when the hidden villages were all established, and when Hashirama Senju decided to trade the captured tailed monsters to those villages? War," the Kage told him. "War, destruction, and blood came into these lands, and Natsumi was obviously not pleased, and started to once again go against humans. That forced Hashirama Senju to venture into the heart of her holdings, and to confront her once again, but this time in a battle. Nobody now knows the full details, but I do know that Mariko no Kami was sealed permanently inside her domain, which is now used by humans as a weeding out ground. That Hashirama Senju never returned from that forest." "Wait, you mean to tell me that the first Hokage was murdered by Mariko no Kami?" Naruto asked in shock. "Killed? I wouldn't be so certain, for Mariko no Kami is a particularly malicious kami when angered. She may still keep him alive, if only to torture him for her own amusement, but do keep in mind that despite that, she isn't an inheritably malicious kami. If anything, before the coming of shinobi, she was actually a very kind and caring kami, one that protected her worshippers and people that passed through her forests," the Kage stated to Naruto. Though after decades of imprisonment and being turned into a meat grinder for humans, her attitude had shifted towards more of an angered kami, and if it wasn't for our Tenko, we, humans and yokai, would have to deal with the Kijin. His powers would rival those of Yamada no Orochi. "What does your Tenko do to her, exactly?" "Every time once the exams are over, or when she has time, she comes here to exorcise the souls of the dead that were left behind, letting them pass away into Yomi. Along with that, she cleanses the forest of the malignant energies that were left due to all of the fighting," the Kage told Naruto. "Thanks to this, Mariko no Kami can be calmed down a bit, and a threat to us all averted. As I recall, Tenko is currently there, performing the exorcising rites, as we speak." "Really? I wish I could see it myself," Naruto said wishfully. "Both Tenko and rites themselves. Maybe someday in the future. Until then we best, Naruto, hide behind that tree, now." The Kage immediately ordered Naruto to do so, and so he did, even though he did not understand why she asked him to do so. His understanding came sooner than later, when he saw how a trio of Inizuka shinobi with their dogs landed near one of the entrances to the forest, looking rather suspicious and seemingly on edge. Naruto was glad that Akagi put a hiding cloak around them, so it was safe to assume they were well hidden, so they observed what was going to happen. In the next minute, they saw how another trio of shinobi, wearing the red uniform of Iwa, landed near the Inuzuka shinobi, and went to them. Both Naruto and Akagi were close enough to hear the exchange between them. "So, have you brought us what we've asked?" the leader of Iwa shinobi asked, before scooping out from his pocket a scroll. "Just keep in mind that while this information pays well, if we find out it to be a dud, then we'll make sure your Hokage knows who has been his village's routes of supply, and stations on the borders." Yeah, we know all about it. Not the first time we've been doing the business. Here. The leader of Inuzuka threw the Iwa ninja his scroll. "Got something really special for you this time, so you better pay up more." "And what would that be?" The Iwa leader opened up the scroll and read quickly, before closing. "And how did you come upon such a valuable piece of information?" "Well, we've got our own ways of getting the information. Anyway, something like that is worth at least double the usual payment." Inuzuka grinned with greed written all over his face, before the scroll with payment was tossed to him. "Hey, and where's the rest? This is serious stuff, something that can get our whole clan in serious trouble, and we risked our necks for you here." "No, you've risked it because you were easy to buy. This is for now, and once we confirm if the information is genuine, we'll pay double that, right?" The Iwa leader stated to them. "Should this be fake, then this payment will have to go to your funeral." Wait, did you hear that?" the Iwa leader suddenly said, making everyone turn towards one of the gates, only to see that the wind was moving the chains on it. Naruto let out a relieved sigh, thankful that they weren't spotted yet, but unfortunately, it was then that his luck ran out. With his curiosity gaining over his common sense, Naruto moved just a tiny bit closer to the group, not noticing a small tree branch underneath his foot. Once he shifted his foot a little, the branch broke with a resounding sound, breaking the cloak that Akagi had put up around him. The moment it happened, Naruto instantly turned around and was ready to run, but he was far too late. He smashed into one of the Iwa nins, before falling onto the ground and crawling away in fear, as he was surrounded. Well, look at this, boys. We've got ourselves a little eavesdropper here. Now, didn't your mommy ever tell you that you shouldn't eavesdrop on other people talking?" Iwa leader said mockingly, before grabbing Naruto by his hair and bringing him closer to him. "So, what should we do with him? Perhaps we'll just drop you off in that forest of death and have the wildlife take care of you." Hey, stop, just slow down for a second there," one of Inuzuka nin said. "That kid, it's one of Hokage's brats, the full one." "Oh, so this is one of Yellow Flash's own mutts," the Iwa leader said, taking a closer look at Naruto. "Yeah, you definitely look like that yellow bastard. Looks like we've just won ourselves a jackpot, guys. Now, don't you worry, little brat, we won't be hurting you, at least for now. You'll actually be coming on an adventure with us, straight to our village, where..." That was the point at which something completely unexpected for all of Shinobi had happened, as the head of the Iwa leader was suddenly blasted with fire from behind, forcing him to drop Naruto. The very next moment all of the ninja turned around, and saw Akagi, now manifested in the physical realm, looking just like she did in spiritual form, only now she was, as big, as an ox. She snarled, and waved her 5 tails around menacingly, ready to pounce, and kill all of them before even thinking about hurting Naruto. "What the hell is this? Is that 9 tails?" one of the ninjas cried out of fear. "No you fool, but it's definitely not a normal fox. Damn it, it must be connected to the brat, since he's got those weird eyes. Get him." Inuzuka commanded, with him and his leaping at Akagi. With a roar that could rival that of Kyuubi, Akagi didn't waste time with these mutts, since not only she hated Nikkens and Inuzuka, due to the fact of latter training the former via hunting foxes, which were Akagi's friends, but she had her dearest in danger here. The first that leapt onto Akagi herself was grabbed by one of her tails, before being slammed into the ground, with the vice breaking the back of that dog. The 2 others that followed were literally swept away by her other tails, which were ablaze with her summoned fire, burning, and setting the fur of those beasts on fire. The intensity and power of Kitsune fire was enough to burn through Chakra's steel, so fur, flesh, and bones of those beasts were little trouble for Akagi's fire. The next thing that had happened, Akagi was hit on her head with some form of spinning attack, making the fox stagger and move back, before regaining her bearings. She sensed that the Inuzuka were preparing to make another attack on her like this, and this time Akagi was ready. Just before it connected, Akagi's left forward foot moved, before striking the moving Inuzuka, and launching to his right, before spewing fire from her mouth to incinerate her. The 2 others decided to double team on Akagi, but fueled with rage and anger, she was able to repel their initial assault from her side. Just as they prepared to strike one more time, she extended her tails, and grabbed a hold of them both before they could move. With another bout of roar, her tails became whips of fire, and incinerated the captured Inuzuka, and now Akagi was prepared to deal with Iwa ninja. Until a clear child's cry of pain resonated through the clearing, instantly sobering Akagi from her bloodlust, and bringing her to look at her Naruto. She saw how deep in his knee was wedged a kunai, with blood already dripping out of the wound, while he was now being held by one of Iwa's shinobi, a kunai close to Naruto's throat. The two others were slowly retreating closer to the boy, with the leader speaking up. Okay, you demon, you don't want us to hurt the boy, now do you? The leader moved the kunai a little bit closer to Naruto's neck, making the tiniest scratch on it, riling up Akagi even further. If you manfuls dare to kill him, I swear that I'll see your village razed to the ground, with all your people served as ashes to salt the earth. Akagi spoke to them, scaring the Iwa shinobi, but she didn't make a move on them just yet. So you can talk. And no, don't worry, we won't kill him. He is now far too valuable to us now. Clearly, Lord Fourth had deceived everyone when stated that he made 2 Jinchuriki, when in reality he had made a 3rd one, as well. The Iwa leader stated with glee in his eyes. And it's all ours now. That child is no vessel for any tailed beast, and this is no tailed beast, the Wagakure ninja. You are dealing with a kitsune. A new regal and powerful voice spoke up, drawing the attention of everyone to its source, revealing it to be Amagi, walking towards them from the left of Akagi. Amagi-ni-sama. Please, Naruto. Akagi spoke to Amagi, with Amagi simply raising her hand to calm her down. I'll take care of this, Akagi. Do not worry. Amagi assured her, as she locked eyes with the Iwa leader. I give you one chance, Iwa ninja. Release this child, and flee, or I will make you pay for hurting him. And just what do you think you can do, huh? You are just a pretty woman, and we've got the Jinchuriki, so one of Iwa's shinobi stated, before both him and his friend next to him suddenly became engulfed in blue fire, leaving them not even a chance to cry out of pain. A second prior, Amagi's eyes had glowed with dim golden light, as she casted her spell upon the fools. The leader looked shocked at what had just transpired, before looking back at Amagi. Teach, this is a trick. You've got us locked in Kai. Yet nothing had happened or changed. Kai. He tried again and again, to no avail. You have until I count to 3 to release him. When Amagi told him, and just as she counted to 1, the man decided to simply run. Dropping Naruto without a care, he dashed to the opposite direction of where Amagi and Akagi stood, until he suddenly stopped, feeling a blade wedged right between his ribs, and plunged deep into his heart. Once the blade was removed, the body of the man dropped down, and Tomoe Uchiha stepped over him, moving to Naruto's unconscious form, with Amagi joining her. She carefully removed the kunai from his knee, before beginning to disinfect the wound via the first aid kit she carried with her in a seal, a habit from her time in service. Wound's not as deep as I feared, so he'll be fine. A scare may remain, but that is nothing too serious. Tomo concluded her analyses, as she cleaned the wound. Just apply a band-aid for now, Tomo. I will heal Naruto in my temple, and there we can finally introduce ourselves to him. Amagi told Tomo, who was glad that Amagi had finally relented. Finally, it took you long enough. We should have talked to him long ago, right when he first confirmed to us that he could see Yakai. Tomo stated to her friend, with Amagi releasing a slightly strained sigh. What about the bodies? Akagi will take care of them, will she? Amagi saw how Akagi nodded, and went to eliminate the traces of a fight ever taking place here. Still, it is concerning that Konoha shinobi would be so willing to sell their own comrades for a quick profit. Treason and bribery were always a part of shinobi life, and those were in Izuka, the reckless and short-sighted kind, who gave in to their baser instincts of greed and ambitions. I've had to kill more than a few in Izuka turncoats during the last war. Tomo confirmed for Amagi, as she finished her work with Naruto. There, that should do it. Now, let's head for the temple. Several hours later. Inari's temple in Konoha. The first thing that Naruto had realized when he finally started to wake up was the fact that he was sleeping on something very soft and fluffy, and that he was really warm. Once he started to open up his eyes, he also noticed that he was covered in what appeared to be large foxtails, covering his body, and acting as a sort of bed, pillow, and sheets. When he used his hand to stroke one of the tails, he immediately heard a response in the form of a moan, coming from above him, making Naruto look up. Then he came face to face with a very beautiful woman, who possessed red like Ruby's eyes, long dark brown hair, and also a pair of fox ears on top of her head, coupled with red makeup around her eyes. She was dressed in an open black coat with golden features on it, and a white shirt underneath, coupled with red miniskirt and black stockings, which left nothing to the imagination when it came to her bust, hips, and legs, though it was still covering it, for a moment. Naruto could have swore he was looking at Akagi in what he imagined would be her human form, though he didn't know if kitsune were capable of becoming humans. The woman smiled at him softly, and caressed her cheek with her hands softly. Did you sleep well, Naruto? Now Naruto was certain that this was Akagi in human form, for it was her voice. I thought you might get cold sleeping, so I've decided to make you a bed out of my tails. Do you like them? Yeah, they're soft, and very warm. Naruto answered honestly, with Akagi being instantly pleased with the answer. Akagi. Yes? She instantly responded, locking her eyes with Naruto. Is something the matter? If you want, you can sleep a little bit more. Don't worry, I'll keep watch over you, and I find myself unable to pull my tails from you. Of course you couldn't keep your tails away from him. Came a more serious, colder tone, with another fox girl revealing herself to Naruto. Unlike Akagi, this girl had white hair and white-colored fur on her 5 tails, while she dressed in a white open coat with blue features on the sleeves, just like with Akagi, while sporting a black shirt underneath, covering far more of her cleavage, but still proving a peek at her generous assets. Her skirt was just slightly longer and blue in color, with white leggings covering her legs. In figure, she could compete with Akagi in every department, as she looked just as beautiful, with her short white hair, blue eyes with red makeup near them. She had something that resembled a small scowl at Akagi, who simply giggled at the girl's irritation. "Kaga, there's no need for you to scowl like that. There is plenty of room for both of us, and I'm sure Naruto will appreciate your soft white fur, just as much as he enjoys my own right now," Akagi suggested with a light-hearted tone, with Naruto widening his eyes, realizing that he looked at another kitsune that was a regular guest to him, Kaga. Kaga was one of the kitsune that most often visited and watched over him, rivaling Akagi in that department. Where Akagi seemed more light-hearted and easy to get along with, at least for Naruto, Kaga was the serious and nearly no-nonsense type, one that seemed fully focused on her duty and didn't like to deviate from it, at least at the first glance. Despite her cold exterior, she was caring and affectionate towards Naruto, as well as one of the main teachers to Naruto when it came to his education. Once Kitsune discovered that Naruto was capable of perceiving them and communicating with them, Kaga took it upon herself to educate the boy, first in reading, and later in various sciences. In her mind, a child, and a person that was illiterate, despite being a child, was weak and not worth anything, so Kaga started to teach Naruto. Thanks to her, Naruto was able to learn how to read just a month after starting, as well as to write, and more, before moving on to maths, literature, sciences, and language. Being a demanding, strict, and also a very effective teacher that she was, Kaga managed to make Naruto into a rather intelligent person, despite him being a little child. Still, while he did get lots of headaches, and was more than often exhausted, Naruto was still far better off in the knowledge and intelligence department than his siblings. They may have started to train in chakra, but when it came to reading, let's just say that if Naruto wanted to hide from them for all of eternity, he could do so safely in the library, where he now practically lived, in no small part thanks to Kaga. Along with her strict personality, she was also a sister to Akagi, though he never did learn who the older sibling was. While they got along famously, complimenting each other well, Naruto was a witness to when the two kitsune were arguing with each other, with him being the reason for it. And if his sense of danger was correct, now was one such time. "You have always been too lax with your duties, Akagi. Had it not been for you, Naruto wouldn't get hurt in the first place. You should feel ashamed of yourself, letting some humans get an upper hand on you," Kaga chastised her sister. "Had he been with me, no one would have as much as lay a hand on him. Perhaps I should request Amagi-ni-sama to be put in charge of protecting Naruto more often, if not on a permanent basis." That got a visible tick out of Akagi, and a reaction, as she gently removed her tails from Naruto, letting them both rise up, with Naruto moving away from the two sisters. "Kaga, aren't you getting a little bit full of yourself?" Akagi asked her in a not-so-malicious manner. "Because, as far as I can recall, I've never, ever, been lax in my work to look after Naruto, and, as for what had happened, there wasn't any way to anticipate that such a thing would happen. And besides, I've had everything perfectly under control. Such a situation shouldn't have been allowed to happen, sister," Kaga retorted. "Yet not only did you not properly defend him, but you've even allowed him to get injured, and nearly captured. It is obvious that what Naruto requires is a disciplined and dedicated caretaker. Perhaps one who, for instance, had taught him how to write and read. And who scares Naruto every time that said teacher gets into an ill mood?" Akagi asked back, with Kaga's brow twitching, and her tail starting to swing a little more erratically. "Did you know that I've always managed to calm him down, and make him go to your lessons when you scared him? Had it not been for me, our dear Naruto might have grown afraid of books and writing, especially with how you worked with him. Yet I was the one who taught him the value of knowledge, intelligence, and reading, unlike you, who seemed perfectly fine with him going illiterate, just like his siblings," Kaga retorted to her sister, with now Kagi's tail starting to swing more. "With me, Naruto discovered what a treasure of knowledge is, and because of this, he is far better prepared for the world than his siblings. Maybe you should go and watch over them, dear sister." "Oh no, I wouldn't want to deprive you of the opportunity to teach those brats what it means to be afraid of holding a book. So why don't you go and show them the value of traumatizing education?" Akagi suggested, with Kaga narrowing her eyes upon her sister. "We'll be here perfectly fine, waiting for you. Me and Naruto, alone and without any interference. So that he would get attacked again? Not a chance," Kaga stated with force. "And besides, Naruto must be getting tired of your presence. Maybe he would prefer to spend time with a fox that knows how to restrain herself in front of a 5-year-old child. Or maybe he would like to be with a kitsune that makes 5-year-old children read books that are studied by upperclassmen in schools." Akagi asked with steel in her voice. "And besides, it is obvious that Naruto prefers to be with me over someone as cold as you are." After all, he did state that my fur and tails are the finest. Now Kaga was truly starting to get angry. Liar, he simply said that they were fluffy and warm, nothing more. Kaga spoke back, before smirking a little, but that is just the first time he had to touch a kitsune's tail, and naturally he would be impressed, even if it's the tail of a lousy kitsune such as yourself. Naturally, once he gets a taste of my soft, snow-white fur, there will be no contest as to which kitsune he would most likely want to be. Oh ho, as if you would ever get warm with your tails, sister. I mean, the way you are always so stiff and cold, I fear he might catch a cold from just touching them. The Kagi said with strength in her words, before starting to glare at her sister. So do not get in the way, Kaga. I am perfectly capable of taking care of Naruto. How funny, I was about to say the same thing, Akagi. Kaga started with a glare, and Naruto was starting to get afraid that the two might be getting ready to fight. That would have been the case, had the door into the room not opened, and stepped Amagi with a seemingly calm look on her face. Both Akagi and Kaga stopped their glaring match to turn, and look at her approaching them. Amagi-ni-sama Akagi was about to speak up, before Amagi suddenly whacked Akagi on the head with her right arm, making younger Kitsune yelp out of pain, and grab her head with her hands, with a visible bump already there. Nisama, as Kaga was about to defend her position here, she received the same procedure from Amagi, leaving her clutching her head, and nursing a new large bump on it with her sister in a near identical position. Akagi, Kaga, how many times have I told you not to fight each other? Sisters should get along no matter what their personalities may be, and fighting is no good way to make friends. Amagi started with a sagely wisdom, before softly taking Akagi and Kaga right hands. Now, shake hands, and apologize to each other. Or else the moment Amagi said that, Naruto could have sworn that the temperature in the room dropped to 0, and both Akagi and Kaga shivered. I am sorry, dear sister. Akagi and Kaga said at the same time, and shook hands, their argument forgotten already, with Amagi's smile dawning upon her face. That's better. Now, could you two please give me and Naruto some privacy, and tell Tomo to come here? Amagi asked Kaga and Akagi, with both nodding to Amagi, and leaving Naruto alone in the room with Amagi, who turned to Naruto, and smiled softly to him. I apologize for how they behaved just now. They are wonderful sisters to have, and love them dearly, but there are times when I have to remind them of how to behave. I hope they haven't scared you, Naruto. No, they didn't. Naruto answered, as took a good look at Amagi, and nearly had to close his eyes. Both Kaga and Akagi exuded powerful auras around them, with Kaga's being blue in color, while Akagi's red, and both had evenly matched intensity and power, but when Naruto looked at Amagi it was like he was fully surrounded, and encompassed in her aura of soft, warming, and radiant power. It was, as if Naruto was in the middle of forest of death, only instead of feeling of rage and murder, he felt calmness, safety, and love. Naruto didn't know if this was what a god Akami felt like, but he had a feeling that Amagi was far more than just a kitsune. Are you also a kitsune? Naruto asked in an unsure voice, with Amagi softly smiling at him. Where are my manners? I am sorry, though I saw you first quite some time ago, we haven't yet been properly introduced yet. Amagi said gracefully, before stepping closer to Naruto, and revealing to him her kitsune ears, and nine tails chocolate brown colored fur. Naruto, it is my pleasure to finally meet you officially. My name is Amagi, and I am a priestess, and servant to goddess Inari, as well as a kitsune, but you may already know me by my official title Tenko. Amagi no Tenko. Thanks for watching my video, leave a like if you enjoyed my video, and also do consider subscribing to my